Okay, in part one of the quadratics test, you're not going to be allowed to use any graphing calculator, okay? So you're supposed to be looking at this quadratic equation and telling things about its graph without actually looking at the graph. So the first question is, will the graph be concave up or down, and how do you know? Well, this is in standard form, right? So that's A, -2 is A equals -2, B equals 6, and C equals -2, right? So these tell us things about the graph. A tells us whether it's concave up or down. If it's negative, it's concave down. So I would say concave down because A is negative, right? Now what is the y-intercept? That's just the C value. The y-intercept is -2. How do I know? Because that's the C value. So you make sure you write your answer on that. What is the axis of symmetry? Now this is a little bit trickier. Remember, you're going to need to memorize the axis of symmetry is opposite of B over 2A. But once you memorize that, you just have to plug things in. You take that middle coefficient, 6, and you take the opposite of it, negative, over 2 times A, -2, right? So opposite of B over 2 times A. So that equals -6 over -4, which is positive 3/2. So the axis of symmetry happens at x equals 3/2, okay? Now, what's the vertex? The great thing about the vertex is once you've figured out your axis of symmetry, then all you need to do is plug this in here, right? So I'm going to plug this in to my equation, -2 times 3/2 squared plus 6 times 3/2 minus 2. Okay, so you just take this x value, because the vertex happens on the axis of symmetry, right? So you just need to know what the y value is. I know what the x value is, so I'm saying what's y when x is 3/2. So I plug in 3/2 here, and now I just need to do the math. 3/2 squared, that's the same thing as 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4, plus 6 times 3/2. I'm actually just going to simplify that right now. That's 3, that's 1. So that's 3 times 3 is 9, minus 2. And I can simplify this. -2, oh, this is just a 1, and that's a 2. So now we've got -9/2 plus 9 minus 2. These two become a 7, right? So I just need to take 7 minus 9/2, right? A couple ways to do that, but I'm just going to think of -9/2 as -4 1/2. So if I take 7 and I subtract away 4, that would leave me with 3, and then I subtract away 1 more half, so that's 2 1/2, right? So my vertex, you have to write it in vertex form, 3/2 and 2 1/2, right? So really, or another way to think of this is like 1.5, 2.5, right? So now I'm using the information to sketch the graph of the quadratic equation. So to sketch the graph, I want to be able to plot my y-intercept, right? So my y-intercept's -2. So that's just right here. So that's something. I know that this is concave up, down, so I know that it's either going to go kind of like this, it's going to go like that. But my vertex is really going to help me. If I find 1.5 is kind of right here, and then go up 2.5 right here, that's my vertex, right? So my axis of symmetry is going to go right along here. So now I know I'm just drawing this concave down, right? Concave down, concave down. So you can draw a really nice, accurate sketch with just the information we found here. If you know your y-intercept and your vertex, you can draw a pretty decent sketch.